is a good one tonight because these are a bunch of anatomical landmarks that show up when you're drawing the figure all the time, basically all the time in every pose, and to greater and lesser degrees, different parts of them do. And so everything that we're going to be looking at here is kind of applicable. And you've heard me mention the sternomastoid before, that main muscle that comes down, the big ropey muscle. But this diagram's quite good. We can have a slightly better look at it here because we've got the sort of external view, and then we can sort of see underneath here with the diagram. So I guess the first thing I want to point out is, and I'll draw on top of the picture here, is that when you're connecting the head and the neck to the body, it pays to think in terms of this diamond shape here. So you've got that diamond shape there, and so that's bordered by the collarbone down here and the trap muscles at the back going up there, and then you've got the neck coming down, sort of seating itself within that diamond. So if you keep that in mind, that can really help with drawing the upper body and connecting the head and the neck to the body. But let's just have a quick look at the anatomy. As always, I don't know, I'm not an expert on this anatomy at all, but there's some basic things here we can look at and memorize and keep in mind for figure drawing. So yeah, I think the first thing is this big muscle, the sternocleidomastoid is the full name, this big ropey muscle coming down and joining just inside the collarbone. And you'll see on another diagram in a minute, that's apparently called the jugular notch. I did not know it was called that, but something to keep in mind. So yeah, you've got these main ropes coming down. I'll draw on top of the picture again here. And then you've got these, a secondary part of the sternomastoid called the sternal head, which is going off to the side here and connecting further up to the collarbone. So it's worth noting both of those. That secondary one doesn't show up as much, but it does show up in some models. Now, in more prominent, obviously in male models, you've got the Adam's apple here. Now, I wanted to sort of see, okay, what does that look like underneath? And we can see a bit of that in the diagram here, but I'll just bring up one other diagram, and that's, no, not that one, this one. So here we have a proper gross view of the Adam's apple under the surface there. What it actually is, so it's thyroid cartilage. And once again, in this diagram, you can see the sternomastoid split, the inner part going to the jugular notch and the outer part. And so I'll just go back to our original diagram. And what else? The traps. So as I said, the back of that diamond is the trapezius muscle at the back. We're not going to be drawing the neck from the back today because I will definitely do a completely separate anatomy bites on the back, on back muscles, and that will very much include the trap muscles that go up the middle of the back and go right up the back of the neck. So today we'll focus on front and side views of the neck. So we will sketch this view. What I'm going to do is, instead of having to work from either the anatomical one or the external one, I've kind of blended them here. So here we've sort of got the best of both worlds. I've just sort of overlaid the anatomy onto the external diagram. And just so you know what we're going to be doing, we're going to quickly sketch that. We're going to sketch a side view here of female neck here, just so that we can sort of see, once again, that big sternomastoid muscle coming down, and we can see a side view of the trap back muscle and how it travels right up the back of the neck and the back of the head there. Obviously much smaller thyroid cartilage in the female model there. And then we've got a few models here, whatever we've got time for we will work through a few sketches of models next. So anyway, just to sort of get the main parts of the anatomy in our head, let's do a quick sketch of this view. Oops, wrong brush. So you may want to block in major shapes first. You might want to, it's up to you how you do it, but you could even start with that diamond as I mentioned it, so that you can, to help you start thinking of it that way, starting with the trap muscles like that, and then bringing in the front of the diamond like this for the collarbone, and then seating the neck within that. So we don't want to get too lost in detail. We want to just focus on those main landmarks, the main part of the sternomastoid, the secondary part, the sternal head, the trap muscles at the back, and the Adam's apple, the laryngeal prominence. All right, we won't spend much more time on this, so I'll just give you another minute or so. All right, let's maybe move on to the next one. One thing I want to point out here with drawing the neck, especially if you're getting a little bit closer to it like this, is that it's not really accurate to draw the neck as concave lines. So in other words, it looks like this, right? It looks like a concave line, and it can sometimes even look like a concave line at the front. But as I discovered reading a very good figure drawing book called Drawing Lessons from the Great Masters, it's actually more accurate to think of the external contours of the neck as a series of convex lines. So if I draw on the photo here, if you look closely, it's much more like this: convex line, convex line. I mean, whoops, I exaggerated that one a bit too much. Convex line, like that. So it's actually a series of convex lines, not actually concave lines. So just keep that in mind when you're drawing the neck. If you go too smooth and concave and curved with your lines, especially when drawing female models, you'll notice that it can make them look a little bit cartoony. And that's because you're ignoring the actual underlying anatomy, which are these overlapping muscles, which form a series of convex lines rather than one continuous smooth concave line. So I just wanted to mention that. But otherwise, there's nothing much new to point out in this diagram. We've got the sternomastoid again here, the sternal head, the little separation down here. And this all at the back here, all of this is trapezius, this trap muscles going down here, that whole section there. Not going to worry too much about all that underlying anatomy and musculature there. So let's just sketch this one quickly. Don't worry too much about what I said about the convex lines. You can still sketch a curved guideline and then put in the sections so that you can still do a flowing gesture line as a guide. And the reason we're not looking at the collarbone in depth in this session is because I will undoubtedly do another anatomy bites on the shoulders, in which case we'll probably look at the collarbone more closely in that one, both the shoulder blades at the back and the collarbone at the front and how it connects to the shoulder, and because that creates quite a landmark up on the shoulder. So we'll save that for another time. All right, we won't spend too much longer on this one. We've got about 19 minutes left, so we can maybe get through 3 actual model studies. Okay. All right, so here we have a profile view of a male model with an extremely prominent Adam's apple, and we can see, if I draw over the photo here, that sternomastoid coming down, joining into his collarbone there. You can see a bit of secondary, although I don't think that's the other part of the sternomastoid. I think that's actually a vein there. Adam's apple, and here we've got the trap muscle there. So that's kind of what we're focusing on here, but we've got about 6 or 7 minutes per these, so draw as much or whatever you like, but make sure you get those landmarks in there, a good sense of them, because that's the whole point tonight, to just get in the habit of seeing and placing those anatomical landmarks. All right, we may need to just move on to the next one. So, what have we got here? So I picked this one just because it's more subtle view of this anatomy. If you look at how her sternomastoid is very much not very pronounced in this, it looks quite small and subtle. But we can see the connection point very clearly there, coming in between the start of the collarbone there, and we've still got this diamond. Just never forget this diamond thing going on here between the collarbones and the trap muscles at the back, and then the sort of column of the neck seated within that. Yeah. Let's have a quick sketch of this one. Oops, sorry, I'm just going to cut some of this off. There we go. All right, we might just move on to the last one so we can fit it in. Okay, so we've got this guy tilting his head to the side. We can see clearly here, once again, the main part of the sternomastoid, but we can also see the secondary part here, meeting the collarbone there. And we've got the other main part of the sternomastoid right there. Trap muscles behind, making our diamond. And yeah, so, oops, let's have a quick sketch of this one. The video may cut out at any point soon, so yeah, I'll just say that I hope that was useful. If you've never looked at the anatomy of the neck before, I think once you have, it's pretty simple to remember the structure of that main sternomastoid, and now we've even looked at that little secondary branch that comes off it, and then the Adam's apple, the prominence of that more so in the male models, and the way the sternomastoid connects in here between the collarbone at that jugular notch and the trap muscles at the back, creating the upper part of the diamond that the column of the neck is seated within. So yeah, I hope that was useful, and that it's you'll find when you draw the figure, if you hadn't looked into this before, then now that you have, you'll see this anatomy underlying, even if it's very, very subtle. And knowing that it's there and knowing how to put it in really adds a nice degree of realism to the figure drawings.
Thanks, Dylan.
Thank you, Dylan.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks so much.
No worries. Good to see you.